Welcome back, guys, to our last and final video of Bitstream Academy today. It's been a long day. You guys have learned so much, but thank you so much for coming and sticking it out with us this year. I know things are a little bit different with it being virtual. Just know we are all just as sad as you are that you couldn't come into the office this year. But thank you so much for sticking around and letting us teach you virtually this year. So, to end this session, we are going to add the last bit of JavaScript to your website. Now, in the last video, we set up our script file, we put in some console logs, and we even added a few alert functions to that as well. We even got jQuery working, so hopefully by now you have a few console logs and even maybe an alert or two in there working on your website. And just a quick reminder of what that alert does when you refresh. It shows this nice pop-up with some text in there that you add in that function. So, before we move forward, there's a few lines in that JavaScript file I wanted to go over before we keep adding JavaScript to your file. Comments. So just like in HTML and CSS, comments are for developers only and are never interpreted by the browser in your code. As a developer, say you just created this massive JavaScript function, but you didn't want to completely get rid of it, but it's not necessarily needed in your code right now. You would comment it out. And your code has two ways to set these comments. One is to surround the comment by using these symbols. So by using these symbols on your comments, you can comment out multiple lines of code. In your script.js file, you can see that lines 1 and 2 is actually a comment that Glitch put in there for you. And because they use these symbols, you're allowed to add as many lines in there as you want to. I can't type and talk at the same time. We can go in here and say, this is a comment. This is another line of a comment. Even though we're writing all this text in this comment block, this will not get interpreted by the browser. Another example of a comment is here on line 6. When you just want to get rid of one line of code, you just put these 2 slashes ahead of it. So a quick way to toggle that for Mac users is to hit Command and that / key or your question mark key, and that toggles that comment for you. So that way you don't necessarily have to delete all of your JavaScript you write, but just comment it out in case you need to use it later. And it's also a great way for you to go in and write explanation text for your JavaScript to explain to another developer what's really happening with the code that you wrote. Because sometimes functions can get a little big and crazy and kind of hard to read at first when you're a new developer looking at some code. So writing in some comments and putting out a little bit of instruction for someone on a function you wrote is always super helpful as a developer. All right, so let's dive into jQuery. So this is a big concept that I like to explain to people of the idea of don't reinvent the wheel. jQuery is very widely used by a ton of developers in the world. And because of that, a lot of people have created snippets of jQuery code, or what's called plugins, that you can download and easily add to your site without having to write any JavaScript. So using plugins will come with an external file that you will need to download and reference on your site. Pretty similar to how we use that CDN link for linking the jQuery library to our website, we are going to do the same with the jQuery plugin today. Once you add that external reference of that file, you then initialize their jQuery by connecting it to one of your HTML elements. You do that by creating a jQuery object with that selector that we talked about in the last video. So a real-world example we're going to use and add to our site is an accordion. Usually I would do a code break and have you guys figure this one out, but I want you guys to step through this with me together, and I'm going to show you how to add an accordion jQuery plugin to your website. Okay, so again, if you guys are not referencing the slides, I would highly recommend you just taking a minute and pausing the video and going to the Bitstream Academy site and pulling up the slides for this section. I'm going to copy these 2 lines of code. I'll explain what they are once we add them, but we are going to add these 2 lines of file references into the head of our HTML. It's important to remember that because these are style sheets, we need to keep them with our other style sheets. So on line 15 is my one link style sheet reference. And below that, I'm going to add these other two style sheet links and give myself a little bit of space here. Okay, so we have our two style sheets that are referencing the style sheets in a plugin that we're going to be referencing. Once you have those two lines added, go ahead and copy this one and put this after your jQuery reference, but before your JavaScript file. That is because this is a plugin that needs to have this JavaScript reference, but your custom JavaScript file needs to know what both of these two things are on line 24 and 25 before anything on this line 28 can get referenced in this file. Let's remove a few spaces here, just get things cleaned up. And in here, you can see comments in our HTML have become very helpful when it comes to our imports. As you start adding more imports to your file, it's never a bad idea to add a few comments just to make sure you know what is getting added by each link tag or script tag. Okay, so we have our references. Now I want you to take all of the HTML in this slide and copy that and put that in the main body tag of your site wherever you want this accordion to appear. I'm going to put this under this H2 on line 74. Now, if we take a look at that code we added, we can see it's everything we've pretty much gone over today. We have a div with an ID of accordion, an H3, and a few other divs with paragraph tags and headings as well. The big thing to take out of this code is this ID of accordion on this div on line 77. This will be the value that we will be using to create a jQuery object with our JavaScript to manipulate this HTML and add some functionality to, and essentially make this into our accordion. After that, go ahead and add this code to your JavaScript file. Note that this example has that document ready function. We only need this middle line that is selecting that accordion selector and running this accordion function. So let's go to our script. We'll comment these out for now. Now you can see my accordion jQuery selector object is here. And this JavaScript is saying, take any element with the ID of accordion and run this function of accordion on here. Now remember, we don't have to write any other JavaScript in here because that is a function that is created by those references that we added from that plugin that works on top of jQuery. So they've made it super easy for us. We have our references to jQuery, we have our references to our plugin, we have our HTML that we are manipulating, and the final step is to add that rule in your JavaScript to tell the browser to make that HTML into an accordion. Let's go ahead, go to our page, and refresh the page. And now you can see we have this full working accordion out of the box that took that HTML and with JavaScript made this little accordion section. So even though this says section 1 and section 2 with some filler text, we can go into our HTML and let's take that content that's in there and let's make those some real paragraphs. We'll take that one and this one. And we can change these H3s to be any text that we want. So let's say all about Baby Yoda. And you know what? We should actually take this list from the sidebar. I'm going to take this text and copy that and say reasons why Baby Yoda is the best. I'm going to copy that UL and put that in here. Now you can see by just updating that HTML, now I have a full working accordion with more content that expands and contracts when I click it because of JavaScript. All right, so that was another quick crash course on how to start adding jQuery to your projects. You can go in if you want to challenge yourself and figure out how you can add styles in your CSS to target these things. Our few hints I'm going to give you to do that are to use your inspector tool, as well as any already existing classes or IDs that JavaScript added to this HTML. If you get stuck on that, let us know. Chris and I would be more than happy to help you. But other than that, we are now officially done with Bitstream Academy. I cannot tell you guys enough how excited I was to be able to still put this on this year and have these videos for you to reference and still learn how to code and really dive deep into these concepts of CSS and HTML and JavaScript. And I hope you enjoyed it today and working with us and watching these videos. And thank you for sticking it out with us. We will be having an in-person meeting with you guys because we want to see presentations of your projects. So if you would love to share what you've learned today and what you've come up with using all of these things that you've learned, let me and Chris know, and we would love to present your projects to the class. So thanks again, guys, and we will see you soon.